Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited for this interview today. I am interviewing a fellow Aussie author. She's actually not too far away from me, so she's basically a neighbour. And we're going to discuss her magical journey and how she got into writing. And she is the first sports romance author I've ever interviewed as well, so I'm a little bit intrigued about that. It is none other than the Leesa Bow. How are you today?
I am well. Hi, Kaya. How are you?
I'm fabulous. I just want to draw attention to the painting behind you because as soon as we started talking, I noticed it straight away, and I just want to say it's super beautiful. And your daughter did this, so I just want to do a little shout out or whatever it may be, but it's absolutely stunning. So I just wanted to add that. But I'll get straight into the first question. What is it like living in Brisbane, Australia?
I originally grew up in Broken Hill in outback Australia, so it was hot and no humidity. 45 degrees, that was okay. That happened a lot, desert country. Then we moved to Adelaide and winters were freezing. Summers could get up to the 45 again, but you had a lot of hot days, so that was fine. Moved to Brisbane and we're like, holy hell. This humidity is crazy. But we've adapted quite well. We've been here 4 years now. Mm-hmm. And the winters, oh my God, they're the best winters. We laugh. We might walk down the street and we'll be in T-shirts and people have got scarves and beanies on. And I'm thinking, where have you been? This is great. Go south.
It's so good because I'm on the Gold Coast, so I'm not far from you, but I used to live in Brisbane as well. And I used to always laugh because so many people would be rugged up because as Australians, we're used to the heat. So as soon as it gets to about 20 degrees, you've got one of two people, those who just go overboard and look like a marshmallow, like you're in snow weather, or those who are still wearing shorts and flip-flops.
Yeah.
I love it. Take me back to the start for you. Tell me about your journey. Why did you start writing?
I started writing in 2009, the very end of 2009. My daughter became sick. She was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma in her pelvis, which is a bone cancer, and she was only given 40% chance odds. And at this stage, she was an elite athlete. She was weeks away from going to Germany and the USA, touring basketball with the South Australian Institute team. And she had some symptoms, but she was still training twice a day. And, she'd complain about some hip pain, and I'd say to her, ease back on your weights, ease back on, you're training too hard. So it really took us by surprise because it was a 12 centimetre growth coming out of her pelvis. It was massive. Sorry. It's hard when I go back and relive what it was.
Yeah, of course.
So I didn't know, I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't read. I couldn't do anything to take my mind off it. So we basically, she was taken to hospital for, she actually was sick. And then she said, I've got this sore leg. I had some pins and needles. So they did a scan and that was it. She never went home. And she went straight to the pediatric oncology unit. From there, that's where the treatment started. And I was in this ward and, with all the kids with their bald heads running around their drips, it was just really changed our life and our way of thinking. I had a dream. Sorry, I got a bit muddled. Then I had a dream and it was such a beautiful dream. And I almost felt guilty for being happy after this dream. So I put pen to paper because it became my therapy. So I put pen to paper and started writing out the dream. And then every time I got stressed, if the doctors gave us more news, I'd write more. And in the end, this book became my therapy and I just kept writing to it until I realized I was writing a story. And then I told my friends, and because I was the type that always exercised for stress release, they thought I was going a little bit loopy. And they just went, you're writing a book? And that's where my journey started, was from the hospital wards with my daughter. But then what happened was I realized that I didn't want to release this book. This was mine. So I put it aside. And then I decided that I loved this writing. I loved the way it made me feel. It was just a new world to me. So I decided I needed to write something else. And that's where it began.
That's incredible. So your daughter at the time, she was 16, correct?
17.
17. Okay.
Yeah.
How long was that battle for her? If you don't mind me asking, because she's okay now, correct?
Yes. And we've actually spoke about her going back to the hospitals and speaking to people, especially those who have Ewing sarcoma, because the friends that she made, sorry,
it's beautiful.
The friends that she made in hospital, most of them have passed away. So I actually dedicate my book to them. So you'll see that in the dedication in Ulara. So just how, and their parents. So it's, I dedicated my book to them. There are some that are still alive, but the Ewing sarcoma, most of them have passed away. And she was very, very lucky. She was one of the lucky ones.
I didn't expect this to be so emotional, but it's absolutely beautiful, and I think that would be amazing if she could do that for others from her journey.
Yes.
And show that she came out on the other side, the healing possibilities, the hope. With Ulara, so this was a book that you set aside, correct?
Yes.
And this is the one you've only published this year in March.
Yes.
What made you, because obviously you've created a career since then, you've written books since then, and you've published them. What made you decide to wait 10 plus years to release this?
Because it was my therapy book, and there was so much emotion writing it, even though the book isn't about my daughter. It's actually an adventure, and there's a journey of self-discovery for the character. And she's from Adelaide, and she goes to South America. And she travels from Brazil to Venezuela. There's some in Peru. But this whole journey of self-discovery is, I guess, what I needed at the time. So releasing it, because it was hidden away, all the emotion come out. So I actually did cry on the bed for days during release, and it was really hard. It was really hard letting it go. But book 2 is very exciting. I'm writing that at the moment. And it's a very, very hard book to describe, especially when you look at the readers and their reviews. They often say, this book is really hard to describe. And I go, yeah, I know, I wrote it. And I have trouble describing it. And the one thing I do say is, think of Eat, Pray, Love meets Avatar meets Outlander.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's where, So it's not science fiction or anything, but it's the whole, because it's in the jungle and there's a shaman along the way. And so we talk about survival in the jungle and the herbs and what you need to do. There's a tribe that is living where time hasn't touched them. So that's where the whole Outlander thing comes in. You're going back in time because they haven't had barely any human contact. But there's also her journey of traveling with her girlfriends, having fun. She needs to get away. So that's where the Eat, Pray, Love part comes in.
I love that. And it's no wonder that it was such a huge, overwhelming release for you, because to sit on that emotion for 10 years. And I love talking about this too, because obviously as authors, we talk about, loving what we do and we love writing, but it is very therapeutic for a lot of us because we do have to add in that emotion and those experiences we live. And often, and I find this is a common question, people ask, are you in any of these books? And the truth is, we're in every single book. Like, there are certain experiences or emotions that we channel in every book so we can connect with it. So then our readers can connect with it. So no wonder if you were sitting on this for 10 years and then you decided to build the courage to release it, no wonder it was very overwhelming for you. But congratulations, that's an amazing accomplishment.
Thank you so much.
Tell me a little bit more about, so obviously you were writing this and then you went into sports romance, which
Yes.
is way like I've never interviewed a sports romance site. So tell me what started you on that path.
Well, our life is sport. My husband played football in Melbourne, South Australia, and my 4 daughters were all playing basketball at an elite level, at a national level. And so I understood the sport more than anything. I was a taxi mum. I stopped nursing to help to get them to their sport, to their trainings. And then I started merchandising with Nestle instead so that I had that flexibility. And then, I would have between 25 and 30 trainings and games a week. So, which I couldn't do. So I had to call on my parents and everyone else to help me. And, it might start where, okay, we're up training, you're doing individual trainings. I've got protein drinks and whatever for them in the car with all their school clothes. They do a training and then, and that might be 3/4 of an hour drive. And then there's another 3/4 of an hour drive back to their school. And then they, get dressed for the school. Then straight after school, we'd have the car loaded with stuff for the night because it'd be one training to the other training to the other training. Eating, they lived on Subway a lot. Going to them and then finally going home. And, if I met up with any of the other parents at trainings, my back seat was all bras and school clothes and everything tossed in the back, It was funny. But yeah, that's what I understood. And plus my husband played for all his life. And he was fanatical about the football as well. So I understood that. And when I read a sport romance, there was baseball and American football, I thought, I can do this. I can write this. So, and there was at that time, there was barely any AFL romances out. There was a few, there wasn't many. So that's when I wrote it. I think I probably started writing that one in 2011. And then at the end of 2013, I got the phone call from Penguin and they asked, they asked for it. So it was great. So that I always remember lucky 13 for winning the player. And then it was released in April 2014. And I now have the rights back for these books. So I did the series, but that was the beginning of the sports journey.
Firstly, you're a super mum. So you need an award or something for that because that is a lot. But that's amazing. So you were obviously pitching your book to agents, correct? How did you find,
Publishers.
Publishers, sorry. How did you find that process? How long did you have to wait to hear back?
6 months.
Okay, that's really good.
Yeah, from that particular one, it was 6 months. Some you didn't hear back from at all. I was at the RWA conference and I pitched to publishers then as well. But no, when Winning the Player got picked up, it was actually just through a Pitch Monday online.
Yeah.
And something like that it was. And and that's how it got picked up.
How did you then balance the expectations, still being super mum with sports, with your family, and then also having deadlines for the series from a traditional publisher? How did you balance that?
It was only the first year And then after that, I'm not sure it was through Destiny Imprint, and I'm not sure the way they were going then is the way that the romance books in the sport world was going. So they didn't acquire any more from me, but I knew I wanted to keep writing sport. So from there, I did another 4 books, and so that's where it happened. That's when I decided, yes, I'm going to self-publish. I was learning a lot more about the self-publishing industry. And then eventually I asked my rights back, so then I could incorporate the first 2 books into a series.
And that's wonderful that they gave you those rights back. How did you find the indie publishing initially? It's quite overwhelming, isn't it?
Very overwhelming. It's a huge learning curve. We're still learning. It's never ending. But I do love it. I love the friendships that you make through not just indie, the author world, and right around the world. You know, it's definitely something that I feel like has been great for me.
And I think it's so funny because when you go into this, it's very not lonely, but you're by yourself, you're writing this, and it's for every first-time author, it's a way to escape usually. And then once you publish, you start realizing there's this community around you that you can access, and you meet these beautiful people and you find your tribe and you make so many friends. And the world kind of just grows around you. It just really, well, in my personal experience, I find that it just expands almost immediately when you're willing to print that book and step into it. So I'm so glad that you have that.
Yes, yeah, it is.
What would you say so far to date has been your most memorable reader interaction?
I think going to a book signing, and it was one of my first signings, and I was still getting to know readers, and they'd come up to you and speak to as if they know you. And I absolutely loved that, because I am a very people person. So that is the one thing I did struggle about, was the loneliness. So I am always branching out to authors in the area going, who wants coffee? You know, who wants to do this? Anyone who lives locally. And this reader came up to me and just said to me, I have to have Winning the Player in print. It's my go-to book. Every time I'm feeling down, I just go for that book. It's my pick-me-up book, and I cannot remember how many times I've read it. I need it in print. So I think that for me was like, whoa, like, okay. And I don't even know if that's my best book, but the way she resonated with it really touched me. It made me feel good. I think, yes, I can do this.
That's amazing, because that's one thing too, as writers, we have so much doubt. Well, majority of the people I talk to have a lot of doubt. I haven't yet met an author who's like, I'm absolutely amazing at it. Everyone has doubt because, you know, it's still art. We're like, oh, what if somebody doesn't like it? And when we get feedback like that, it's so wonderful.
Yeah.
It's a magical experience.
Yes. Yes.
What would you say your greatest challenge has been and your greatest accomplishment in your writing career so far?
The challenge is believing in yourself. I really do. Like you said, when you're writing, you come away and you think, that's just crap. You know, I got to delete all that. And so I often have to find my editing process is huge, because I always say I come from the country. I make up my own words. Like I often have my friends say, what does that even mean? And I think, well, where I come from, we all understand that word. Why don't you? So to me, I have to edit quite a lot. And then then the editing process as well. It's probably more than normal.
I highly doubt that, because I feel like I do the same. Again, I feel like everyone's just like, I must go through everything. And I come from a country town too, so some of the words are very misdefined, to say the least. So I completely understand where you're coming from.
But I think my biggest achievement is Ulara, not sales-wise. Winning the Player was definitely my most successful book, even though it's only early days with Ulara. But releasing Ulara, as you know, the challenge, that was my biggest challenge and achievement, I think. Yeah.
What did you do to celebrate that release? What did you do for yourself?
Well, I wasn't really in the mind to celebrate because I was really feeling quite emotional with it. So Nina Levine came over and she said, "We are celebrating this." So she came to my house and said, "We're doing this." So yeah, we celebrated here together. My daughter Shawnee, who's now living with me for a little while with her family, she brought me some beautiful Swarovski rings, and yeah, that was really nice. Yeah, so that's all I did on the day. I kept it quite low as well, but not the actual night. Nina and I did have fun.
This is,
yeah.
as we were talking about the community and the friends that you need, we all need friends like Nina, and I'm so
We
glad that she
do.
made it special for you.
Yes, yes.
We've spoken a little bit about the community, but you specifically are in the Australian romance writers. I think I'm getting it. You're in two different groups. I've got it on here. Romance
Yeah,
Writers in Australia and Australian Readers Association. So
yeah.
what do you take from those groups? For anyone who hasn't gone into a group like that, what can they expect?
The Readers Association is really connecting with the readers. I get all their emails and it's quite informative as well. They have different groups where they can connect as readers, but as an author, I just like to see what's going on and what's happening and trends and that as well. And it is a nice little group. The Romance Writers of Association of Australia, or Romance Writers Australia, they have a conference every year, and it's different cities around Australia, changes every year. And even though there are times where you think you might look at their conference and you think, well, I don't need the craft here so much. It changes, and it might focus more on marketing or craft or whatever they choose to do. But for me, it's connecting with the authors, especially those from, other cities. So it's that yearly catch up, and we always meet in the bar and we catch up, and it's become social as well as, learning craft. Yeah.
How do you find it? I absolutely love interviewing Aussie authors, not biased, but only because I find that we have interesting challenges, just in the sense that majority of us mostly market to Americans because that is where a lot of our readership is. So a lot of the time we have to change our jargon in our work. We write to American English instead of Australian because we spell things a little bit differently. So it is nice to connect with Australian authors so we can discuss, and I think the common ones are, say, for example, what word means what. So I'm thinking bonnet in Australia means the front of a car, whereas in America it means like the baby little hat thing. So I think it's exciting to connect with Australian authors just to discuss those things as well, those minor challenges that we have.
Yes, yes. I most of my books are in Australian English.
Amazing.
And the latest ones I've actually put in a dictionary at the front so that readers understand some of the terms and our Aussie lingo, and also explaining that this is in Australian English or UK English, and there are not spelling errors. This is it. So I've done that. With Ulara, I did change it to American English, and even though the character's Australian, the main heroine is Australian, I still kept it as mum, M-U-M, but the the hero is American. So when he does go to speak, I'll keep it as the mom. But everything else is in American. I just thought it'd be strange as an Australian for her to say, when they're in Australia, for her to say mom. So I just thought, no, I'll keep that little part as is. And I had the dictionary still, even though it's in American English, I still had a dictionary of some of the terms.
I think that's getting the best of both worlds. That's brilliant. What would you, so one of the more strenuous things as a indie published author is marketing. So I would love to know what your 3 top marketing tips are for fellow writers.
I'm still learning marketing myself. I actually quite suck at this. So I need to up my game. But I've been reading a bit lately and the importance of copy. And so I've decided, yes, I need to keep changing my blurb until it's right. So Ulara in that short time has probably been changed 5 times. And now I'm very happy with the way it is. So I'll probably leave that for some time. Winning the Players probably had, half a dozen changes as well. I kept the third person blurb from the publisher. Then I changed it to first person because the book's in first person. But now I've gone back to the third person just to see, what happens. So I just think, changing that up is something. Facebook and Amazon is definitely worthwhile learning as well. And even though this is not, and that's something I'm in the process of doing, but even while editing is not so much marketing, I find that you do need a good editor because you might sell your first book, loads of it, but if it's not well edited, readers mightn't pick up the second, third book from you. So I feel like the importance of editing and marketing is still there.
And I think it's so important, as you said, with the copywriting, it is so important because when you have a specific genre, it is going to be saturated with other authors and you really need to stand out. And it's great when you have that beautiful cover and people click on it and they're like, yes, this is what I want. But if your blurb isn't grabbing them within the first, second sentence, then it's done because you can only take so much of their time straight away. And there's numerous books that I've read and it comes out to outright sales, like book funnels and stuff like that. And just the importance of how serious copyright is. So I think it is an amazing skill to learn, especially when you do start getting into Amazon and Facebook ads, as you were saying, because you will chew through a lot of money. And if you have a good copy ad, then it's going to get them through, and a blurb, of course. And so, as you're saying, adjusting that blurb often, you could get totally different results with that. So I think that's really smart to change it up.
Yeah, oh, thank you.
Honestly, I've been meaning to get to it for the last couple of months, and I just haven't had the time. So this is a reminder to me that I really need to do that. This is my favorite question to always ask. What is your goal as an author? What is the dream that you're chasing?
I would love to sign at something like Book Bonanza or something amazing like that overseas. That is a dream. But I guess my big dream is for Ulara to reach as many readers as possible. It's not so much about success, but having people connect with that book because it's the book of my soul, I just feel like if that could happen, if that book could reach out to people, that's my dream. That's the one thing I would hope for, and to people to really enjoy it and to think about the story, because the story really makes you think about society and what we've learnt from society, and how when she's in the jungle it becomes about survival. Your education, your social status, it means nothing. It's your instinct to survive and your skills to survive. And that's where I think also there are scenes from Avatar where they talk about that. And that's where it does make you think about your values, your life. Yes. So I think everyone needs to read Ulara. And it's a book for everyone.
Now, I have a new segment. It's called Speed Dating with an Author. So you and I are going to go on a very romantic date. I lit a candle just for this experience. And basically what it is just 5 rapid questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Wonderful. What is the clumsiest moment you've ever had?
Like falling over? I fall over. I embarrass people around me. I do fall over when you least expect it. And it's not just a fall. It's like going, like, and it'll be in a public place, always. I would not be alone. And like, one of my daughters would go, Mom, like, what are you doing? Are you okay?
What are the 3 words that would best describe you?
Loyal, passionate, and easily excitable.
Oh, I like that one. I like all of those, but I love excitable. What song best describes you?
Titanium.
I love that song.
Yes, I love it. Yes.
What's your life motto?
Bloom.
Bloom.
And follow your dream. Follow your dream.
Okay, my last question on that one. What is a unique talent or skill set that you have that not many people know of?
Well, if I fall, I can bounce up really quickly. I used to do Highland dancing, and I can still remember most of the dance moves.
What's Highland dancing?
Highland dancing.
Oh, Highland dancing.
Yes.
Really?
Yes. And so every time I hear bagpipes, oh, yes, it does something to me. If drunk, I can break out into dance.
Have you ever been to Scotland?
No, I want to so bad.
I was before COVID, I was actually living over there, which is why I was like, Highland dancing, where did you learn that? That's amazing. Sorry?
In Broken Hill. The outback town, Broken Hill, we had a huge Highland dancing community. Massive.
Really?
Yeah. So we'd travel down yearly to Adelaide for the Royal Highland Games, and then you'd have all the Irish dancers and all the Scottish dancers competing. Wow. And I would win the Irish jig, where you got dressed up like a maid and you shook your fist and you had an angry face and you danced around the stage. And I used to do that.
Because you're so nice and sweet. I could not imagine you having an aggressive expression.
I was very good at that acting.
But that is basically all my questions. What is coming up for you? Where do we follow you? Where do we stalk you? Tell us everything we need to know.
I do have a newsletter, and which you can sign up to on my website at leesabow.com. You can find me on BookBub, Instagram, Facebook. Following me on Amazon is always good because you'll get notified. Goodreads as well. All the usual places. It is my name, Leesa Bow. So I'm just out there as myself. And what's coming up next is Ulara book 2, which is called Wild at Heart. And that's being released the end of August. Book 3 at the moment will be released in December. And then after that, I hope to touch on the characters from Court Out Oliver. He needs his own book. And from Charming the Outback Zane, he'll need his own book. So they're the next books coming out. So the base series, although it's complete, there are characters that still need their own stories. And for signings, I've got Books by the Bridge in Barossa in May. I also have a library talk at the Hallett Cove Library in Adelaide on the Tuesday the 18th, talking about Ulara. And then the Gold Coast Books by the Bridge, which is in August. And I have the Romance Writers Conference is in August on the Gold Coast as well. and there's an ARA signing there, I think. That's it for this year for signings. So
I'm so excited because I will see you at the Gold Coast signing. But I might also have to join the Australian Readers romance group because I didn't realize it would be on the Gold Coast as well. So that's interesting. But your reader's going to be super happy that you're revisiting the Bay series as well.
yes. And the character Oliver, who needs his own book, is the actual restaurant owner. So while it's not sport romance, he's one of the main characters in the Courtout Jardin with his restaurant. But then in the following books, the characters go to his restaurant. They hang out at Lombardi's, his restaurant. So they all become a big happy family through the sporting people. And I was in two worlds with Cocky Notes, was in the Cocky Hero world, and in the KB world, I had Velocity. And Oliver is mentioned in both those books and his restaurant. So he's always a feature of where people go as well. So even though it's not sport, he still deserves his story in this series.
But how did you go with the writing in the Cocky series, like writing in different worlds? How did you find that process?
Well, what I managed to do was, as soon as the Cocky world was quite easy for me, because with Chance being an Australian soccer player, I thought, right, I can bring the sport world to this straight away. So I had really set Cocky world as before winning the player. So I actually set it where a Chance was in Australia. He hadn't left to go over to the US, so it's pre-Cocky Bastard. So he's in Melbourne, but my character is in Adelaide, but they went to school together. And even though he's soccer and one's football, they're best mates, and it's the traveling with the soccer. So I really talk about Chance being before his soccer career and then leading up to his accident and combining it with my world. And Hunter, who's the main character in Winning the Player, he is just starting to play then as well. Like, it's all new. So Cocky Nights could actually be looked at as pre. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's so clever as well.
And Lombardi's with Oliver is featured in that as well.
Clever. So you've really interwoven them all into each other's.
Yes.
Oh yeah, your readers are going to be so pumped.
And of course, Zane, who needs his own book, comes from Broken Hill to Adelaide to see Chance, because they used to camp together, because Chance is a character who used to camp in the outback. So I could weave in my outback book as well.
All the Jaragon should be in that book.
So I found Cocky very easy. Velocity was more difficult for me, being racing car. But again, I decided to stick with what I know. So I had the heroine as racing car family in Australia, and her father had met the characters in Velocity, but I kept it in Australia.
I am super excited to I haven't yet read your books, but I'm definitely going to grab a copy of Ulara. Actually, I will get a signed paperback from you, since we're neighbours and we're indefinitely going to meet up for coffee at some point.
Yeah.
I was like, you have no choice.
We need to.
That'll be great. I will definitely grab a signed copy from you, because that book sounds so magical and I cannot wait to start it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. If I was going to recommend any, that's the book.
Well, I'll definitely make that at the top of the list on the links below. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute hoot to meet you.
Oh, thank you. I've really enjoyed it. I really have. Sorry for breaking down earlier, but I'm okay talking about Shawnee and her journey. But then there's little triggers still that are still there, even though, it was all so long ago. And the fact that she had 3 months of chemo in hospital, and then surgery to remove part of her pelvis and her muscles, and then another 4 months of chemo. It was a very long process. And then, yeah, I just think I really had to be the strong mother, strong wife, the strong, for her. So I did put all my emotions, I just kept them inside and just went about life as it was, because my other daughters all needed to keep getting on with life and their schooling and their sport. And I think that's where Ulara, I went into that with my emotion, writing it, not about that, but then when it come out, released, I just think everything just bubbled up to the surface. And that's what happened.
I don't think anyone can fully ever, and there is no expectation to fully heal from this. It was scary, and it's hard to be that pillar. And so I'm so happy that you found an avenue, that you found something therapeutic through writing, where you were able to put that raw emotion somewhere so you could be solid for your family. And I think it's important that you take this time to rest and just accept everything that's happening, because it's a lot.
Yeah, yes. And everything's just so great now, and Shawnee is living her life, and she has her own little miracle daughter, which is fantastic, who I look after on Thursdays and Fridays. So yeah, no writing for me. It's just Nana time.
Oh, that's so nice. I can't wait to meet you. You're such an inspiration. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you.
I hope to get you on again soon, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too, Kaya.
Will do. Bye.
Bye.